All right, did Blackmagic perfect the Pocket 6K? No, they didn't. But that's okay. It's a great camera, and we're excited to talk about it and tell you some of our thoughts and some of the things that we like and some of the things we would have liked to see different. So let's get right into it. Build quality is pretty much the same as Blackmagic's other cameras. From pictures, the camera looks significantly larger than their other pocket cameras, but once you have it in your hands, it's actually not too bad. There is something that feels a little more solid than the original Pockets. I think that may be partially due to just how solid the tilting screen feels. I've heard a lot of people complain about Blackmagic's choice to stick with EF mount and not switch to a mirrorless mount such as the Canon RF mount, Sony E mount, or L mount. And it's understandable, and I would love to see it, but it makes sense why they can't simply just take another company's lens mount without licensing and permission. I would love to see them become a part of the L mount alliance, since that already is comprised of 3 different companies and seems like the best chance for them to get a mirrorless mount on their cameras. Until they do switch to a mirrorless mount, I really wish that they would change their EF mount in their cameras to a positive locking mount similar to what Red and Zcam have done with their EF mounts. Pretty much every Blackmagic camera that we've owned have all had a slight amount of wiggle and play in the EF mount. While it doesn't necessarily affect the image, it feels cheap and is something that could so easily be fixed with a positive locking mount. This would especially be nice when it comes to larger cine lenses and telephoto lenses. Blackmagic is so close. What they're doing with the EVF and the battery grip gives me hope that they're slowly moving towards a more modular design. Personally, I've never found the DSLR form factor to be beneficial with filming at all, and it only makes it more difficult to rig onto gimbals. In my mind, the sooner that they can move away from this DSLR form factor, the better. Seeing a new articulating screen and a high brightness screen was extremely exciting because it shows that Blackmagic is listening to its users. The fixed screen seemed to be one of the biggest complaints of the original Pocket 4K cameras. And while I would have preferred to see a tilting style similar to what Tilta created, where it hinges at the top, this is still a huge improvement over a fixed screen. A 1500 nit brightness screen is huge, and was something I definitely was not expecting to see in a $2,500 camera. I hope this leads them to integrating high brightness screens into all of their high-end cinema cameras by default. I have noticed the screen seems to shift a little cool, as many people have noted. Now, this doesn't concern me too much, as this seems to be a pretty common issue, and Blackmagic has stated that this should be something that can be fixed with a future firmware update. While the new battery is welcome, and it's certainly better than an LPE6 battery, it still causes problems when needing to power other devices such as focus and zoom motors, transmitters, and monitors. Because they're small NP style battery, there's no additional DTAP outputs like you would get with a V-mount battery or a BP style battery. So ultimately, you're left having to rig out the camera with other batteries to power other accessories that you may have. If this would be a cube or box style form factor like the Zcam or Komodo, it would open up options to easily use V-mount, gold mount, or BP batteries. It would be great in the future to see Blackmagic ditch the internal battery compartment and go with an external battery plate, similar to how most other camera manufacturers do it. The Canon C70 is a great example of this, since it shares a somewhat similar body style as the Pocket 6K, but it does not have an internal battery compartment. This would allow for using larger sized NP batteries, and would also make swapping batteries much quicker and easier. With the new battery grip Blackmagic has made, it now sends the power through pins on the bottom of the camera versus through the battery compartment like the old battery grip. This allows for up to 3 NP570 batteries. I would love to see this bottom power connection be used for alternative power options. If someone like Tilta could make their NP and V-mount battery base plates connect directly through these power pins, it would open up a lot more options to power the camera without having excess cables. Now, I understand this might not be that simple, but even if a third party can't make it, I'd love to see Blackmagic expand on this power connection beyond just the DSLR style battery grip that they currently have. The EVF was another item I really wasn't expecting them to come out with for the 6K Pro. We do have one on pre-order, but I don't know when we'll be getting it, so we'll have to do a separate video on that when it comes in. I'm really keeping my fingers crossed for someone to create an extension cable that allows for the EVF to be repositioned anywhere on the camera. While I'm super excited about the EVF, we always use top handles with our cameras and plan to do the same with the 6K Pro. This will obviously cause issues with the EVF, seeing how it's smack dab in the middle of the camera, right where the top handle would be. While I'm not always a fan of proprietary connectors, I do appreciate that they keep things clean, and I really like that this new EVF connector can supply a video feed and power the EVF through a single connector. The biggest downside to this new proprietary connector is that there's no way to use this EVF with the original Pocket 4K and 6K. The fact that they were able to implement internal ND filters in a camera that costs $2,500 is truly impressive. Now, I'm not going to do any quality tests as there's already been a handful of people out there showing that they are high quality IR&D filters. And frankly, I trust Blackmagic to know and put the best quality IR&D filters in there since it's their sensor and they know what filters are going to work best with it. Now, the features the Pocket 6K didn't get: better autofocus and in-body image stabilization. While these are features that would have been nice to have, for us, they're just that. They're nice to have, but they're not need to haves. When developing any feature of a camera, it all takes time and money. And personally, I would rather have Blackmagic invest that time and money into developing other aspects of their cameras. Autofocus and in-body image stabilization would be handy to have, but to truly compete against companies like Sony and Canon would require a huge amount of R&D and come at a large cost to Blackmagic, which would in turn probably restrict their ability to sell cameras at an aggressive price point like they currently do. If autofocus and IBIS are must-haves for you, then a Sony or Canon camera are probably the cameras you need to look into. Personally, I would have rather seen the addition of an SDI port, even if it used a mini BNC versus another XLR port. But considering the price of this camera, it's hard to complain. The ports on this camera still make it extremely versatile for most productions. I may have nitpicked a lot of things with this new camera, but all things considered, it's truly impressive the camera that Blackmagic has made for $2,500. And if you're debating between this camera and the original Pocket 6K, I think it's a no-brainer to go with something like this. The features and the functionality it packs on top of an already incredible 6K sensor makes this one heck of a camera. Now, cameras will never be perfect, but they're getting better every day. And all in all, Blackmagic is moving in the right direction and is adding features their customers have been asking for. Now, if there's something I missed or something you're curious about, please let me know in the comments below. And if you're new to our channel, make sure you check out some of our other content. I'm Caleb with Threefold, and thanks for watching.